All right, 3. The analysis pilot railway crew management program. Characteristics, training, participation. As part of the pilot rail crew management training program, a total of 186 participation were trained. Average class size was 13. However, the class size ranged from 3 to 24 participants in the transportation track. Crew resource management classes. A total of 86 engineers, conductors, and switchmen were trained. Further, a total of 100 maintenance of the work employees attended one of 6 engineering track pilot railway crew training classes. The maintenance of the work employees attended the track, including welders, helpers, equipment, machine operators, truck laborers, truck drivers, signal inspectors, maintenance of the work foremen, assistant foremen, a small number of the bridge and building supervisors attending the engineering beta course, and furthermore several road master track supervisors, safety assistants participated in one or more of the engineering track training programs. Texas Transportation Institute collected data on the age of the years of the railroad service from 75% of the training participation average of the sample group of the 45 years old. However, the further examination, the data revealed the biomodule distribution with 2 main ages groups. Figure 5 shows them one of the mode around 34 years of age, while another 52 years of age. Distribution of the years of the service of the railroad had similar properties. Overall, the participation average 20 years of service on the railroad. However, the inspection figure 6 shows the tri-module distribution, including the larger group of the 1 year less experienced new hires participation within around 8 years of experience. Finally, participation with about 30 years of experience. Before the pilot program, many of the crew resource management principle skills had been taught broadly and employee-based throughout the railroad industry, not enough through any formal training that is called the Crew Resource Management Program. Morgan, Olson, Kite, Rope, and Carsley in 2003. For example, the teamwork is taught, but the value associated with actions relating to many of the teamwork skills contained with the formalized crew resource management program as provided through the variation of the training course. The idea of the teamwork of the crew resource management framework, however, is not necessary to taught. Consequently, is the extent to which the participation have received the crew resource management and the crew resource management type of the human factors training were also assessed through the post-training survey given to the sample of the participation. 58% results should be 3.8% for the participation sampled and indicated that they had previously attended the crew resource management program training. Eleven 3% indicated that they had a previous training on the communication. 7.5% specified they attended previous situational awareness training. 11.3% had some sort of teamwork training, and finally 7.5% indicated that they had previous assertive training. Figure 5 shows the age of the training participation from age of training participation from 20 to 61. The peak being at 51, 53 for a number of 14 years. Sorry, actually that means 4. Yeah, I don't know. Out of 137 the years of service of training participation, from spiked from 1 year to 32 years of service training participation, and lows of 5 to 6, 5 to 7. Evaluation of the current crew resource management training. Goldstein in 1991 states that the training is a systematic acquisition, attitudes, concept, knowledge, rules, and skills that result in improved performance of the work of the page 508. Training evaluation, systematic collection of the description, judgmental information necessary to the effective training decisions related to selection, adoption, value, modification, various instructional activities. Goldstein, 1991, page 557. Thus, the evaluation of the training is an essential component of any other training of the program because it tells whether the program have a positive effect on the training outcome, whether the appropriate investment of the organization of the funding agency. Salas, Burke, Bowers, and Wilson, 2001. Also, an indication of whether the goals and objectives of the specific training result in the desired outcome. Systematic training evaluation can serve other important factors as well. The Goldstein, 1993, et al. 2001. For example, if it could be used as a way to collect feedback on the training of the program, such adjustment or revision can be made for the maximum training effectiveness in the future. Likewise, it could be used to assess which assessment aspects of the training work do not work in the training group of the populations. or different criteria can be based on assume that some of the different objectives of training evaluation. Most of the common framework of the categorizing with the critical characteristics of 1976 typology. Carol Patrick outlined the 4 different types of evaluation criteria, including reaction, learning, behavioral, organizational criteria. Reaction criteria includes trainees' feeling toward the training program itself. These include the affective reaction of the core content and structures, as well as judgment and the utility of the training program for the training on-the-job behavior. Craig and Ford and Salas in 1993. Learning in the second level evaluation criteria developed Kirkpatrick described the training of learning of the principles of facts and skills over the years of the concept. Kirkpatrick's 1976 learning level has expanded to include cognitive learning, skill-based effective outcomes. The Krager all case in 1993. Cognitive criteria included verbal knowledge organization, cognitive strategies, skill-based outcomes, including computation automatically with effective outcomes, including additional attitude attitudinal and motivational indices. Behavior indices, the Kirkpatrick's third level of training evaluation criteria included behaviors displayed on the job. In fourth level, title of organization outcomes might increase the performance, productivity, decrease the turnover, and the downtime and the accidents. Many research suggests that the multifaceted approach for the training evaluation, which includes several levels of the training criteria, Salas, Principal Boards, Osser, and Kine and Bowers, 1999. The current pilot rail crew resource management training program was evaluated by using the Kirkpatrick's level of 1 criteria of participation reaction, as well as the level 2 criteria. This includes the extent of the cognitive learning of the verbal knowledge of the effective outcomes. Although important assessment of behavioral organizational criteria was beyond the scope of the current project. 321 Participation reaction training. Participation positive action reaction to the training program should be important to the goal of any of the training initiative of the success at all. In 2001, trainees who enjoy the training, thinking it is practical, useful, should have a great willingness to pay attention to motivational learning. Just important positive reaction to the training of the influence, labor and management support of the future training. Algager, Annenbaum, Bennett, and Travel, Shotland in 1997. C. Ellison et al. 2001. And on the other hand, negative reaction can be provided with the feedback to help the training developer revise and improve the program. Orderlady and Fouché, 1987. The training content of the method used in the current pilot crew resource management program specifically develop and increase the relevant material of the rail improve environment. Previously outlined that the program consisted with the rail, specifically rail life accident scenarios and videos with different crew resource management program in the rail industry. Morgan et al. In 2003, the program developer believed using realistic video scenarios of the rail environment would result in the training becoming enjoyable, practical, useful railroad participation. Furthermore, the current review maintenance training program gives trainees several opportunities to discuss scenarios, other content with the group and the other pairs class. As a result, these factors documented reactions to crew resource management, airline industry, sales, etc. 2001, the program developed at BIA believed that the rail's crew resource management would be considered enjoyable as well as seen and practically useful in railroad employees. Participation requirement recreation to current rail crew resource management training programs was assessed using the position post-training survey. The reaction items as participation include with the degree they agreed with a series of statements of 7-point Likert scale. 1 strongly agreed, 7 strongly 1 strongly disagree, 7 strongly agree. 3 of the items I found the training was to be enjoyable, the training was job relevant, and the training had practical value. The 4th item asked to what degree of the training influenced over your ability to later perform your job. The 4th item of the participation were acted and indicated that the participation of the degree influenced the 7-point Likert scale. 1 no influence, 7 strong influence. Results showed the participation from the training of the enjoyable average rating of the 5.09 in the SD 1.42. The figure shows the distribution of the response. Furthermore, the participation indicated believed that the training of the job relevant had practical value. Indicated that the meetings of the 5.57 and the SD 14, 5.58, SD 134 signature. Respective of the figure 8 and 9 showed the distribution response of these items. Lastly, in this figure shown in figure 10, participation believing the training would influence the ability to perform the job later in the mean of 519 of the SD 131. A series of statistical testing analysis various responses A novo runs to determine the reaction to training differential depending on the age and years of service position. Training track and note the variable significantly affect the reaction of the training, indicating the participation of all ages, years of service position. Training track with similar positive reactions to the training. Figure 7 shows the distribution of responsive items. I found the training to be enjoyable. 1 strongly and 7 disagree. 7 strongly agree. The mean was 5.09 and the low was 142. Strongly disagree was 142. Distribution of the response item. The training was job relevant. This 1 strongly agree. 1 strongly disagree, 7 strongly disagree. Out of a number of 174, the mean was 5.57 with a strong disagree of 1.46. Distribution of response item. The training had practical values. 1 strongly disagree, 7 strongly agree. The numbers 174, mean of 5.58, and strongly disagree 1.34. Figure 10, distribution and response to the items. To what degree would the training influence your ability to later perform your job? 1 no influence, 7 strong no influence. The number of 173, mean of 5.8, and 1.31 strongly disagree or no influence. All right, participation in learning. According to Kirkpatrick, 1970, learning can be evidenced by detailing principal facts and skills when understood with the absorbed in participation on page 11. One of the most important of cognitive learning outcomes about verbal knowledge because of the foundational later the cognitive skill development. Anderson, 1982, consequently measuring assessing the amount of the verbal knowledge of the completion training of the appropriate initial orientation series, the training, the Krager, ATLA, 1993 research, and it suggested the multiple choice, true, false, free recall, best format as testing verbal knowledge, Gagney in 1977. In vain, participation learning was evaluated assessing participation and verbal knowledge of the crew resource management contents of the completion of the railway crew resource management training. Testing was constructive, reviewing the content of the course of the detailed specific was always taken to provide broad spectrum testing of the items of each of the 6 modules. For each of the train track, a slightly different test was created, reflecting some of the differences in content between the 2 tracks. The final test considered 9 multiple choice, 10 true, false, 5 fill in the blank, and 5 full fill in the blank questions asked, and 13 total response participations, resulting in final test consisting of 32 questions. As a result of knowledge of being given at the end of the training session, at the end of the day, the many participation had returned to the work of the form, being able to start the test. Of the 186 participation, 160 attempted to post crew resource management knowledge test. Similarly, as a result, being called to the work, some participation were unable to complete the test, which resulted in 16.7% of the test items being left blank. In light of the getting valid indicative of the post crew resource management training knowledge, each of the tests reviewed to determine the degree of the test and completion for those training the participation who were unable to complete the test because of the time constraints, other responsibility blank items at the end of the test. The test score was determined by the dividing number of the correct response to the number of the items attempted, the hour of the items left to the blank prior. The stopping point is counted as incorrect. Test correct scores for other participation were calculated dividing the number of the correct response to the number of items on test 32. Similar prior group of the items left blank when the tests were scored incorrect. Results indicated the participation correctly answered 83% of the questions. One way ANOVA was run on the data to determine if the learning was depending on the training track, and a significant main factor was found 1.56 equal to 486 P percentage less than 0.5%. P is less than the percentage was greater than less than 0.5. Assessment of the means training track revealed the participation in the transportation and track engineering conductors answered the great percentage of the questions correctly, and with 84% the maintenance of the work participation engineering track a measure of 80. After training, however, all the groups showed a high level of knowledge regarding the crew resource management training principles. 323 attitudes regarding crew resource management principles on objects. The crew resource management training changes participation attitudes regarding the crew resource management concept, reflecting the most common type of the evidence used. They examined how crew resource management affected participation and learning of the aviation environment. Is attitude of the SALS 2001 attitude of the internal state of the influence shows a personal action that believe the important influence of the behavior of the Gagney 1984. Research of the aviation community has shown that certain attitudes related to the ineffective of the career performance of the Helmerich, Schitzer, Fauci, Gregor, William 1990. Specifically, Helmerich and Fauci and Benson and Rizzuni 1986 showed a link between the self-reported attitudes used in crew resource management attitude questionnaire, or QMAQ. An independent evaluation of the performance to check the airman attitude, career characteristics, affected pilot, including but not being able to recognize personal limitations, diminish decision ability, the emergency situation. Furthermore, effective pilots attending the courage of the crew members of the question, decision, action, and sensitive personal problems with the other crew members that might affect the operations feel obligated to discuss personal limitations. Heinrich of the and at all 1986, the evaluation and attitude is important because of the link of the effect of the performance. 3.3. The development of Railway Crew Management Attitude Questionnaire. The Railway Crew Management Attitude Questionnaire, RCMAQ, to assess the impact of the crew resource management training participation attitude. Authors developed a Railroad Crew Maintenance Attitude Questionnaire. The Railroad Crew Maintenance Attitude Questionnaire is based on the original 25 question maintenance of attitude questionnaires developed by Helmich and their colleagues, the Gregor Helmich, Wilhelm 1990, Hammock in 1984. The crew management attitude questionnaire assessed that the aircraft cockpit crew was attitudes toward communication, coordination, communicating, responsibility, recognition of stress efforts, avoidance of personnel inter-conflict. Gregorick et al. All 1990. The research team reviewed the individual team items on the crew maintenance test attitudes questionnaire as well as the factor structure. Gregorick et 1990 assessed each of the items relevance for the railroad team environment. All factors except for the commanding responsibility were considered relevant to the crew of the railroad environment. Theoretical could be influenced the current pilot rail crew resource management program. The other crew maintenance attitude questionnaire commanding responsibility scale includes items such as captain should take the control of flying the aircraft in emergency non-standard situations. There are no circumstances except for total incapacitation where the first officer should assume the command of the aircraft. Gregorick 1990. Several factors result in the items translating well in the railroad environment. First is the command workload, leadership structure in the differential railroad environment than an aviation environment. For the example, the cockpit and the captain in charge of the aircraft regulation of the track safety allowed them to hear him or her the traffic control and fly the aircraft. However, in the railroad environment, the command of the train conductor is responsible, even though the engineer is one physical controlling the train movement. One of the emergency situation, other special condition would a conductor who is an untrained engineer take control of the locomotive. For the reason of the railroad crew management attitude questionnaires does not include the items relating to the CL command responsibility original for the crew maintenance attitude questionnaire. Here's minor modifications were made with the working remaining the crew maintenance attitude questionnaires items that reflect the specified railroad environment, particularly railroad crew being assessed. For the example, the item of the engineering track questionnaire pilots should be aware and sensitive personal problems of other crew members was changed to maintenance of the way crew members should be aware of sensitivity to the personal problems of other crew members. For the transportation track, this item, even when I fatigue more and effective during critical flight maneuvers, was changed to even when I fatigue I perform effective during critical times on a trip. Additional trip items were also added to the original crew maintenance attitude questionnaire to assess some of the specific of the pilot crew resource management program content. The railroad crew maintenance attitude questionnaire consisted of the 28% items. The participation responded to each of the items 7-point Richter scale. 1 strongly disagrees, 1 strongly disagrees, 7 strongly agree. Participation in the research railroad crew maintenance attitude questionnaire both before the crew resource management training. The pre-training questionnaire was given after the introduction, facilitated participation, safety briefing, posting trust training questionnaire, and was given immediately after the completion of the training content. Completion of the questionnaire signaled the end of the train after the participation were free and leave with the train facilities. Full copies of the railroad crew maintenance attitude questionnaire were included as part of the pre and post surveys of the training materials CD-ROM, which was to be submitted separately. It is stated the goal of the crew resource management within the aviation communication under the attitudes lead to the increased safety and error management. Gregorick, 1990, an important component of the development inventory at the top of the ideas which can be used to assess the differences in attitude between organizational positions, evidence, industry. The inventories can also be looked at on how certain organizational support of the training program most of the influence in individual attitude. Gregory stated one of the goals of the crew resource management attitude research push the aviation community creativity, both within the across the organization toward the convergency-related attitudinal issues, and the convergency assumed the individual attitudes shared the desired direction, magnitude, evaluation, a homogeneous, scattered, and interrelated shape, in which they consistent with the effective of the crew resource management, page 683. Factor analysis plays the important role in because of the determinant of the factor of the crew resource management attitude questionnaire specific publication. Specific population can be used to determine the convergence with the factor structure with the other populations through the research knowledge of the first-time study and the factor structure. The crew resource management type attitude questionnaires railroad environment has been completed. Separate factors and analysis were run with the pre-trained railroad crew maintenance attitude questionnaire and post-training railroad maintenance attitude questionnaire. Screech pilots of the card cattle 1966 both analysis showed the 3 or 4 of the factor solution the appropriate with the factor structure of the both orthogonal Verimax, Quadramax, Equalmax, oblique Promax rotations were assessed. Ultimately, Promax, Hendricks, and White in 1964 achieved the simplest structure. 3 and 4 factor solutions were calculated with the pre or post and the railroad crew maintenance attitude questions. It determined that with both 4-factor solution had the simplest structure and interpretable 4-factor solution was then adopted. The structural loading of both the data yielded somewhat similar factor interpretation stated previously. The factor shows structure pre-training of the railroad crew maintenance attitude questionnaire revealed the 4 factors of the factor that one consistently oriented toward the communication crew coordination, debriefing of the criteria, procedure, decision, and after each of the job as an important developing and maintaining effective crew coordination. The factor in line of the factor communication coordination original question crew maintenance attitude question Gregoric 1990. Similar factor 2 consistent with the crew maintenance attitude questionnaire recognition of the stressor effects are less effective with the fatigue factor 3. The consistent with the crew maintenance attitude question could be entitled an avoidance of the interpersonal conflict, the importance of the avoided the negative incommandments, the procedures, technical goals, other crew members, and analyze the structure matrix lead to the title for recognizing personal life of the effect of the workforce performance. The factor was not consistent with the original crew question maintenance and attitude questionnaire. Factor structure in the post-question railroad crew maintenance attitude questionnaire was revealed in 4 factors, similar to the pre-training of the railroad crew maintenance attitude questionnaire. The factor 1 consisted of an orientation toward communication crew coordination, was consistent with the factor communication coordination. The question management attitude questionnaire. Factor 2 consisted of the question management attitude questionnaire recognition of the stressor effects. Factor 3 was not consistent with the crew maintenance crew member attitude questionnaire was represented items suggesting the acknowledgement team interdependence was labeled such. Factor 4 is a title of avoidance conflict because of the identification items suggesting avoidance of the interpersonal of the factors also consist of the original crew maintenance accurate question Gregoric 1990. Only the factors with consistent across the both and post questionnaire administrator were used in the creation of the composite scores. Thus, the item relating to the factor recognizing the personal life effects of the work performance, the pre-questionnaire, and the team interdependence in the post-questionnaire were dropped. Further, the 2 items related to the avoidance of the conflict factor in each of the administrative were dropped because of the small number of the items identified in the factor. Remaining the 2 factors, communication, coordination, recognition, and the stress or effects did not load consistently with the specific factors across the administration were dropped from analysis before the composite or construction. Lastly, consistent Gregory and research reflected several items from the factor recognition structure effects and composite scores were theoretical positive related to crew resource management. The first communication coordinated composite score was made up of total of 11 items. Recognition stressor effects were made up of 4 items. The reliability of each subscale was assumed by the computing of the Concro box alpha. Each of the administrative with the railroad crew maintenance attitude question. The coefficients of the alphas for the pre-training administration were 82 to 49%, and communication coordination recognition of the stress factor respectively. The coefficient alphas for the post-training administration were 89 to 57 for the communication coordination recognition of stress factors respectively. The seemingly low reliability recognition of stress factor subscale is the result of the scale length. However, the the considered adequate mirrors for reliability seen with the subscales of the question measure maintenance attitude questionnaire. 332. The effect of the crew resource management participation attitude to determine the crew resource management training positively change the participation attitude resource development team performed two separate related measurements O novas and A novas and on the pre-position training the composite of the communication coordination recognition stress effects administration pre-training the railroad crew maintenance attitude question versus the post-training the railway crew management attitude question. With the subjection factor to S, the different scores across the training tracks, the team entering the train track an intermittent variable consistent with the Gregoric 1990 F test. The F test used the unvariable approach of the type 3 sum squares. Marginal significant main effective administrative was found communication coordination of the F and 1 in 143 equal to 3.02 P greater than less than P less than 10. Composite means the attitude toward the communication coordination included the positive direction of 63.93 pre-test and 65.8 post-test. Interesting significant main effect of the training was found in the communication coordination of F 1 of 43 equal to 11.75 and P less than 0.1%. Respective means shows that the engineering track participation endorses Adams' dimension that M equals 66M more than transportation track participation 62.4. No significant interactions were found. Figure 11 shows the training track administration cell means of communication coordination score. Engineering track participation increased to 665 to 667, while the mean score of the transportation track participation increased 6.14 and 63.4 for the pre-test and post-administration RCMAQ. The second Avianova found significant main effect administrative with the recognition stressor effect of the F-143, 12.5%, and P greater than less than 1%. Composite mean shows the attitude toward the recognition stressor has increased in the positive direction of 15.3 pre-test, 16.4 post-test. Other main facts interactions were found. Figure 12 shows the train track and administration cell means the mean recognition of the stress factors, but the engineering track participation increased to 15 to 15.9 when mean scores of the transportation track participation increased from 15.7 to 16.9 from pre-post to the post-test administration of railroad crew maintenance attitude questions. In summary, result suggested pilot rail crew maintenance training positive change the participation attitudes toward crew resource management principles, specifically increase the orientation toward the communication coordination recognition structure factor, or interesting finding is general maintenance of work employees with a greater orientation towards communication crew maintenance of the conductor's engineer. Perhaps the maintenance of work employees typical of working a large crew of 5 to 12 compared with the train crew of 2 to 3 experience with the great need for the communication coordination. They develop an appreciation of such factors that the turn might increase the attitudes toward the dimension. Main score of the resource crew maintenance attitude question communication coordination scale administration and training track transportation and engineering. Mean scores of the railroad crew maintenance and attitude question recognition, the stress effector scales, administrative and training track. Increasing railroad employees' recognition of the stress factors is particularly important given the amount of stress fatigue placed on the employees working in the railroad environment. The effects of the stress and fatigue of the FRA 1992, 1997, in fact, the recognition of the stressors and could be the recognition of stressors, fatigue, effects because of the half of the items in the subscale specifically mentioned fatigue, even with the fatigue I performed effectively during the critical times and on the job, less effectively with stress and fatigue. The suggested that the CRA, in conjunction with the initiatives, could be fatigued and countermeasure of the railroad environment. 4 issues related to broader rail crew resource management training implementation.